The drive down Blackwood Valley Road was meant to be a shortcut, a simple detour to avoid the holiday traffic heading into Portland. For Marcus Chen, a renowned wildlife photographer who had captured some of nature's most breathtaking moments, across 5 continents, this should have been just another scenic route through the Pacific Northwest. But what awaited him in the misty depths of Oregon's ancient forests would challenge everything he thought he knew about the natural world. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The late autumn sun was already dipping behind the towering Douglas firs, casting long shadows across the winding mountain road. Marcus had spent the last 3 weeks documenting the seasonal migration patterns of elk herds in the Cascade Range, and his latest collection of photographs was safely stored in the multiple memory cards scattered across his passenger seat. Tomorrow morning, he was supposed to present these images at the National Geographic headquarters, a career-defining moment that could cement his position as one of the world's leading wildlife photographers. The rental SUV's headlights cut through the thickening fog as Marcus navigated the increasingly narrow road. His GPS had suggested this route would save him nearly 2 hours, but something about the way the mist clung to the asphalt made him question that decision. He'd driven through countless remote locations during his 15-year career, from the treacherous mountain passes of the Himalayas to the dusty tracks of the African savanna. But there was something different about this road, something that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The first sign that something was amiss came when his cell phone signal disappeared completely. Not unusual for these remote areas, but the sudden static on his car radio made him frown. One by one, each station dissolved into white noise, until he was left with nothing but the soft purr of the engine and the rhythmic swish of windshield wipers pushing away the evening mist. Marcus checked his rearview mirror, noticing how the fog seemed to be getting thicker behind him, almost as if it were pursuing the vehicle. The temperature display on his dashboard showed a sudden drop, from 52 degrees to 38 in less than 10 minutes. His knuckles whitened slightly on the steering wheel as he recalled stories from local guides about sudden weather changes in these mountains, about how quickly conditions could turn treacherous. The road curved sharply to the left, and Marcus slowed the SUV, his photographer's eye automatically noting how the fog seemed to be behaving strangely. Instead of the usual uniform grey mass, it appeared to be swirling in distinct patterns, almost like it was being disturbed by something large moving through it. He'd seen similar phenomena in the Arctic when polar bears moved through sea mist. But here in Oregon, his thoughts were interrupted by a flash of movement in his peripheral vision. Something dark and massive had shifted in the trees to his right. Marcus instinctively eased his foot off the accelerator, his mind racing through the list of local wildlife. Black bears were common in these parts, but what he'd glimpsed seemed much larger. The fog ahead suddenly seemed to solidify, forcing Marcus to brake harder than he intended. The SUV's anti-lock braking system engaged, and he felt the vehicle shudder as it came to a stop. His heart nearly stopped as the headlights illuminated what stood before him. In the middle of the road, completely blocking his path, stood the largest bear he had ever seen. But it wasn't a black bear, nor was it the smaller brown bears he'd photographed in the Cascades. This was a creature that, by all logic, shouldn't be here. A massive grizzly bear, its fur gleaming with an almost silver sheen in the headlights, its shoulder height easily reaching the hood of his SUV. Marcus reached for his camera bag with trembling hands, years of professional instinct taking over. He'd photographed bears hundreds of times before, but something about this one was different. The bear wasn't moving, wasn't showing any signs of aggression or fear. It simply stood there, its massive head slightly tilted, eyes reflecting the headlights with an almost supernatural intelligence. He started to raise his camera, but froze as the bear did something completely unexpected. It lowered its massive head, almost like a bow, then raised it again, its eyes locked directly onto Marcus's. In all his years of wildlife photography, he'd never seen anything like it. Bears didn't make eye contact like this. It was typically a sign of aggression, but this felt more like communication. The fog continued to thicken around the vehicle, but strangely, it seemed to part around the bear, creating an almost theatrical spotlight effect. Marcus's professional eye couldn't help but note how perfect the composition would be, if only his hands would stop shaking enough to take the shot. But as he finally steadied his camera, the bear moved. Not away from the road, as any normal wild animal would, but deliberately toward the driver's side of the SUV. Marcus's heart pounded against his ribs as the massive creature approached, its movements far too precise and purposeful for a wild animal. What happened next would change Marcus's life forever. The bear stopped just outside his window, raised one massive paw, and placed it gently against the glass. The gesture was so human-like, so deliberate, that Marcus felt his reality shift. This wasn't just a chance encounter with wildlife. This was something else entirely. The bear's eyes held his with an intensity that made his breath catch in his throat. In all his years of photographing wildlife, he'd seen countless expressions in animals' eyes: fear, aggression, curiosity, but never this. Never what could only be described as urgent purpose. As if responding to his thoughts, the bear lowered its paw and took 2 steps back, then gestured, there was no other word for it, with its head towards something beyond the fog. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the dropping temperature. Bears didn't gesture. Bears didn't make deliberate eye contact. Bears didn't try to communicate with humans. But this one was. The fog swirled around them, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that made the moment feel almost dreamlike. Yet Marcus knew he wasn't dreaming. The chill in the air, the soft idling of his engine, the slight fog on the inside of his windows. Everything was too real, too present. He glanced at his phone again. Still no signal. The GPS screen had gone dark, and even his satellite radio display showed nothing but static. He was alone on this mountain road, with something that defied everything he thought he knew about wildlife. Behavior. The bear moved again, this time circling to the front of the SUV. Its massive form was fully illuminated by the headlights, and Marcus couldn't help but notice details that seemed increasingly out of place. The bear's fur wasn't just silver-tipped. It seemed to shimmer with an almost metallic quality. Its movements were too precise, too calculated. And its eyes. Its eyes held an intelligence that made Marcus's professional curiosity war with his instinct for self-preservation. With trembling fingers, he reached for the door handle. Every rational part of his brain screamed at him to stay in the vehicle, to wait for the bear to move on, to maintain the safety barrier between himself and this impossible creature. But something deeper, something more primitive, yet paradoxically more knowing, told him this was exactly what he was supposed to do. The door creaked slightly as he pushed it open, the sound eerily loud in the muffled silence of the fog-wrapped mountain road. The bear didn't move, didn't show any sign of aggression. It simply watched, its head slightly tilted, as Marcus slowly stepped out of the SUV. The cold hit him immediately, far more intense than it should have been for an autumn evening in Oregon. His breath came out in visible puffs, and he could feel the moisture from the fog condensing on his skin. But what truly took his breath away was what he saw next, something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the natural world and his place in it. Marcus stood motionless as his eyes adjusted to the surreal scene before him. There, beyond the bear, the fog seemed to part like a theatrical curtain, revealing what appeared to be the remnants of an ancient trail leading deep into the forest. But what caught his attention wasn't the trail itself. It was the strange, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the moss-covered stones marking its path. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. His photographer's instincts kicked in, and he quickly grabbed his professional camera from the passenger seat. Through the viewfinder, he noticed something his naked eye had missed. Tiny points of blue-green light scattered throughout the fog, almost like fireflies, but somehow different. They moved with purpose, creating patterns that seemed to lead toward the trail. The bear watched his every move with that unsettling intelligence, its massive frame blocking any path back to the SUV. But strangely, Marcus no longer felt afraid. There was something almost protective about the creature's presence, as if it were standing guard rather than threatening. He took a tentative step forward, his boots crunching on the frost-covered asphalt. The temperature had dropped even further, and he could see ice crystals forming on the edges of his camera lens. The bear shifted slightly, moving aside just enough to clear a path to the trail, but remaining close enough to make it clear that this was the only direction available. As a wildlife photographer, Marcus had learned to read animal behavior. It was essential for both getting the perfect shot and staying alive. But everything about this bear defied his extensive experience. Its movements were too deliberate, its attention too focused, its behavior too purposeful. The strange lights in the fog seemed to pulse more intensely now, creating what almost looked like a pathway of illumination leading into the forest. Marcus raised his camera again, attempting to capture the phenomenon, but the lights wouldn't appear in his viewfinder. He checked his settings, adjusted his aperture, but nothing worked. Whatever these lights were, they seemed to exist only for the naked eye. The bear made a soft, almost huffing sound, not aggressive, but insistent. Marcus had heard similar vocalizations before, usually from mother bears calling their cubs, but this sound carried a different quality, almost like impatience, as if the bear were trying to tell him they didn't have much time. Drawing upon years of experience documenting wildlife across the globe, Marcus began to notice other anomalies. The fog, which should have been moving with the wind, instead appeared to be flowing against it. The temperature, while cold, didn't feel natural. It was as if the cold were emanating from a specific source deeper in the forest, and the silence. It wasn't the normal quiet of a remote mountain road. It was absolute, almost pressing against his eardrums. He took another step toward the trail, and the bear moved with him, maintaining its position slightly behind and to his left, exactly where a protective guide would stand. The realization sent a shiver down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. This wasn't just a bear acting strangely, this was a bear acting with purpose. The trail ahead was ancient, that much was clear. Worn stone steps, now covered in phosphorescent moss, led up into the darkness of the forest. But as Marcus watched, more of those strange lights began to appear, illuminating a path that seemed to wind between the towering trees. His mind raced through rational explanations. Bioluminescent fungi, unusual atmospheric conditions, even hallucinations brought on by fatigue. But none of these could explain the bear's behavior, or the way the fog moved, or the absolute certainty growing in his gut that he was being led somewhere specific. Marcus had always prided himself on his ability to capture the unexpected moments in nature, the split-second interactions that revealed deeper truths about the natural world. But this felt like he was about to document something beyond nature itself. He checked his camera's battery life and memory card space, both full. Whatever he was about to discover, he would be able to record it. Assuming, of course, that it would allow itself to be recorded. The strange light's absence from his viewfinder earlier suggested that not everything here would submit to being documented. The bear made that huffing sound again, more insistent this time. Marcus noticed that the fog was beginning to thicken around them, but strangely, it seemed to be creating a tunnel of clear air leading to the trail. It was as if nature itself was trying to guide him forward. He took a deep breath, tightening the strap of his camera around his neck. In 15 years of wildlife photography, he'd learned to trust his instincts. Those instincts had kept him alive in countless dangerous situations, face-to-face with territorial lions in Africa, navigating treacherous ice fields in Antarctica, avoiding aggressive elephants in India. Right now, those same instincts were telling him that following this impossible bear was not just safe, but necessary. The first step onto the ancient trail felt different. The stone beneath his boot seemed to vibrate slightly, sending a tingling sensation up through his leg. The phosphorescent moss glowed brighter where his foot touched it, creating ripples of light that spread outward like waves on a pond. The bear moved ahead now, its massive form somehow managing to navigate the narrow trail with impossible grace. Its fur continued to shimmer with that strange metallic quality, and Marcus noticed that the mysterious lights in the fog seemed to be drawn to it, creating a gentle aurora around its form. As they moved deeper into the forest, the trees began to change. The familiar Douglas firs gave way to species Marcus didn't recognize, ancient-looking things with twisted trunks and branches that seemed to reach for each other across the trail. Their bark was covered in patterns that looked almost like writing, geometric shapes that seemed to shift when viewed directly. He raised his camera again, trying to capture these impossible trees, but the images on his screen appeared blurred and distorted, as if the trees themselves were refusing to be photographed. Yet when he lowered the camera and looked with his naked eye, every detail was crystal clear. The bear stopped suddenly, its head turning sharply to the left. Marcus followed its gaze and felt his breath catch in his throat. There, partially, hidden behind one of the twisted trees, was what appeared to be a structure. But not just any structure. This was something that shouldn't exist, something that defied everything he thought he knew about the Pacific Northwest. Ancient stone walls rose before them, covered in the same phosphorescent moss that marked the trail. The architecture was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Not Native American, not European, not Asian. The angles seemed to bend in ways that hurt his eyes if he looked at them too long, and the doorway seemed to lead into absolute darkness, a darkness that somehow felt alive. The bear turned to face him, its eyes reflecting the strange lights that now filled the air around them. In that moment, Marcus understood that he was being given a choice. He could turn back now, return to his SUV, continue on to Portland, and try to convince himself that this had all been some sort of strange dream. Or he could step through that impossible doorway and discover whatever truth this otherworldly creature was trying to show him. His hand tightened on his camera. He was a photographer, a documenter of truth, a seeker of moments that revealed the hidden wonders of the natural world. But what waited beyond that doorway? He suspected it would challenge his understanding of what natural really meant. The bear watched him, its gaze holding that same urgent intelligence that had first caught his attention on the road. Whatever lay beyond that doorway, this creature believed it was important enough to break every rule of natural behavior to lead him here. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill his lungs. The fog continued to swirl around them, but now it seemed to be drawing them toward the doorway, creating currents of air that tugged gently at his clothes. The lights in the air had multiplied, filling the space around them with a soft, pulsing radiance that made the stone walls look like they were breathing. He raised his camera one more time, trying to capture the scene before him. To his surprise, this time the image appeared clearly on his screen. The ancient walls, the mysterious doorway, the bear standing like a guardian beside it. It was as if whatever force governed this place had decided to allow itself to be documented. With one final look at the bear, Marcus stepped forward. He was no longer just a wildlife photographer. He was about to become something else entirely, a witness to something that would change not just his understanding of the natural world, but of reality itself. The darkness of the doorway reached for him like a living thing, and as he crossed its threshold, the bear's presence solid and reassuring behind him, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that his life would never be the same. Whatever waited in the depths of this impossible structure would redefine everything he thought he knew about the world and his place in it. The darkness inside the structure swallowed Marcus whole, but instead of the expected blindness, his eyes adjusted to reveal something extraordinary. The interior walls pulsed with the same bioluminescent moss from outside, but here it formed intricate patterns, spirals and geometric shapes that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. His fingers instinctively found his cameras, controls, adjusting the settings for low-light photography. Through the viewfinder, he noticed something remarkable. The patterns weren't random. They formed what appeared to be a complex mathematical sequence, each spiral leading to the next in a perfect golden ratio. The bear moved beside him, its massive form illuminated by the living light of the walls. In this ethereal glow, Marcus could see more clearly the unusual aspects of the creature that had been nagging at his photographer's eye. Its fur wasn't just silver-tipped, it was embedded with what looked like tiny crystals that caught and reflected the bioluminescent light. And its eyes. In this light, they seemed to hold entire galaxies. The chamber they stood in opened into a vast circular room, its ceiling lost in darkness above. But what dominated the space was a sight that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. In the center of the room stood what could only be described as a tree, but unlike any tree he had ever seen in his extensive travels. Its trunk was crystalline, seeming to grow from the stone floor itself. Instead of branches, it had what appeared to be streams of light flowing upward, like reversed waterfalls of pure energy. The lights pulsed with a rhythm that felt oddly familiar, almost like a heartbeat. Marcus raised his camera, hands trembling slightly, and began to document what he was seeing. To his amazement, the camera was working perfectly now, as if whatever force governed this place had decided to allow itself to be recorded. Each shot captured details his eyes had missed, patterns within patterns, lights within lights. The bear moved toward the crystal tree, and Marcus noticed something he hadn't seen before. Around the base of the tree were what appeared to be photo frames, dozens of them, each containing an image that seemed to glow with its own inner light. As he drew closer, he realized with a start that these weren't just any photographs, they were images he recognized. The first showed a polar bear he had photographed in Svalbard 3 years ago, standing guard over what he had thought was just an unusual ice formation. But in this image, the ice formation glowed with the same crystalline quality as the tree before him. The next showed a tiger in India, its eyes reflecting a strange light he had dismissed at the time as a quirk of the camera. Now he could see that the light was identical to the streams flowing up through the crystal tree. Image after image revealed moments from his career, moments when he had captured something he couldn't quite explain, something that had never quite made it into his published work. Each photograph seemed to be revealing a hidden truth he had been seeing, but not understanding, throughout his entire career. The bear huffed softly, drawing his attention to a particular frame. The image inside showed this very bear, but the photograph was dated 30 years ago. The photographer's name beneath it made Marcus's heart skip a beat. David Chen, his father. His father, who had disappeared in these very mountains 3 decades ago while on a routine photography assignment. His father, whose last photographs had shown something strange in the forest, something the authorities had dismissed as camera malfunction or exposure issues. Marcus's hands shook as he reached for the frame. The bear made no move to stop him as he lifted it from its resting place. The image was crystal clear. This same bear, with its impossible crystalline fur and galaxy-filled eyes, standing guard over another photographer who looked so much like Marcus himself. A sound like distant wind chimes filled the chamber, and the streams of light flowing up through the crystal tree began to pulse more rapidly. The bear moved closer to Marcus, its presence somehow reassuring despite its massive size. It seemed to want him to understand something about his father, about this place, about the hidden world that existed alongside the one he thought he knew. More images began to appear within the crystal tree itself, projected like 3-dimensional holograms within its transparent trunk. They showed moments throughout history, other photographers, other artists, other observers who had glimpsed this hidden reality and tried to capture it. Each had been guided here, just as he had been, by guardians like the bear beside him. Marcus saw ancient cave paintings that depicted crystalline beings walking among humans. He saw Renaissance sketches of impossible creatures with starlit eyes. He saw early photographs that captured glimpses of this luminous world bleeding through into our own. And through it all, he saw the same patterns, the same mathematical perfection, the same sense of an intelligence far beyond human understanding. The bear moved to stand between Marcus and the crystal tree, its eyes now definitely containing swirling galaxies. It raised one massive paw and placed it against the tree's crystalline surface. The moment it made contact, the entire chamber filled with light, and Marcus understood this wasn't just a hidden place in the woods. This was a nexus point, a place where the veil between worlds grew thin. The bear wasn't just a bear, it was a guardian, a keeper of the threshold between the world he knew and something far more, vast and wonderful, and his father. His father hadn't disappeared. He had been chosen, just as Marcus was being chosen now. The photographs weren't just images, they were windows, proofs of a greater reality that most people never saw, but that some were chosen to document. The crystal tree pulsed again, and new images began to form within it. Marcus saw himself, camera raised, capturing moments that revealed this hidden world to those ready to see it. He saw his photographs opening eyes and minds, helping others glimpse the magic that existed just beyond the veil of ordinary reality. But more than that, he saw his father, not lost, not gone, but transformed. The images showed him moving through this crystalline realm, camera in hand, documenting wonders that defied human understanding. He had become a bridge between worlds, a recorder of truths too profound for ordinary vision. The bear turned to face Marcus fully, and in its eyes he saw a choice being offered. He could leave now, return to his world with the knowledge of what existed here, continue his career with a deeper understanding of what he had been seeing all along. Or he could follow in his father's footsteps, step fully into this world of light and wonder, and become something more than just a photographer. Marcus looked down at his camera, then at his father's photograph, then at the bear waiting patiently beside him. In that moment he realized that every photograph he had ever taken, every moment he had tried to capture, had been leading him here. He had always known, somewhere deep inside, that there was more to see than what appeared through his viewfinder. The crystal tree's light pulsed one more time, and the bear's eyes seemed to hold all the wisdom of the universe. Marcus raised his camera, not to capture what he was seeing, but to acknowledge what he was about to become. He was no longer just documenting the world. He was about to become part of something far more profound, far more important. The bear's fur shimmered with starlight as it moved toward a new doorway that had appeared in the chamber's wall, one that seemed to lead into pure light. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his camera, the weight of his past, the weight of everything he had thought he knew about reality. Then, with a smile that held both understanding and anticipation, he took his first step toward his new destiny. As Marcus stepped through the doorway of light, the world around him transformed in ways his photographer's eye struggled to comprehend. The light didn't blind him. Instead, it seemed to enhance his vision, allowing him to see spectrums and dimensions he never knew existed. Colors he had no names for danced at the edges of his perception, and space itself seemed to fold and unfold. Like the pages of an infinite book, the crystalline bear moved beside him with fluid grace, its form now seeming to shift between solid matter and pure energy. In this realm, Marcus could see that the creature's true nature was far more complex than he had imagined. It wasn't just a guardian. It was a bridge between realities, a being that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. His camera, still clutched in his hands, had transformed as well. The ordinary digital device had become something extraordinary. Its display now showed not just light and shadow, but layers of reality stacked upon each other like transparent sheets. Through its viewfinder, he could see the quantum threads that connected all things, the subtle energies that flowed between dimensions. "Welcome, son," a familiar voice echoed through his consciousness. Marcus turned to find his father standing before him, but not as he remembered him. David Chen's form shimmed with the same crystalline quality as the bear's, his photographer's vest now woven from threads of pure light. His camera, hanging at his side, pulsed with living energy. "Dad?" Marcus's voice seemed to create ripples in the fabric of reality around them. "All these years." "I know you have questions." David smiled, reaching out to touch his son's shoulder. The contact sent waves of understanding flowing between them. "But first, let me show you what I've discovered, what I've been documenting all this time." The space around them shifted, and Marcus found himself floating in what appeared to be a vast gallery of living photographs. Each image was more than just a captured moment. It was a window into another reality, a gateway to understanding the true nature of existence. "You see, Marcus," his father explained, gesturing to the images around them, "photography is more than just capturing light. It's about revealing truth, about showing people what's really there, just beyond their ordinary perception. These beings, like our ursine friend here, have been trying to help humanity understand this for centuries." The bear moved through the gallery of images, its presence causing each photograph to come alive with new depth and meaning. Marcus saw ancient ceremonies where humans and crystalline beings worked together to maintain the balance between worlds. He saw moments throughout history where the veil had grown thin, where photographers and artists had glimpsed the truth and tried to share it with others. "But why now?" Marcus asked, his mind expanding to embrace these new realities. "Why choose me?" His father's smile held depths of wisdom gained from years of exploring these hidden dimensions. "Because you were ready, because you've always seen more than others, even if you didn't realize it. Every photograph you've taken that seemed slightly unusual, every moment that couldn't quite be explained, you were capturing glimpses of this reality." The space around them shifted again, and Marcus found himself looking at his own photographs, but now he could see them as they truly were. The strange light phenomena he'd captured in the Arctic weren't camera flares. They were beings of pure energy moving between dimensions. The unusual patterns he'd photographed in animal migrations weren't coincidental. They were following quantum pathways visible only to those who knew how to see them. "Your mission, should you choose to accept it," David continued, "is to help others see, to be a bridge like our crystalline friends here. The world is changing, Marcus. The barriers between realities are becoming more permeable. Humanity needs guides, people who can help them understand what they're beginning to glimpse." The bear moved closer, its galactic eyes holding ancient wisdom. Through some new sense, Marcus understood that these beings had been watching humanity's development for eons, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves more fully. They weren't just guardians of hidden places. They were teachers, guides preparing humanity for a great awakening. His camera pulsed in his hands, and Marcus realized it had become more than just a tool. It was now an instrument of revelation, a device capable of capturing and sharing the profound truths he was experiencing. But with this gift came responsibility. "The choice is yours," his father said softly. "You can return to your world with the knowledge of what exists here, continue your work with a deeper understanding. Or you can join us, become part of this greater purpose. Either way, you'll never see the world the same way again." Marcus looked at his transformed camera, then at the bear that had led him here, and finally at his father. The questions that had haunted him since childhood, about his father's disappearance, about the strange things he'd sometimes captured in his photographs, were all being answered in ways far more profound than he could have imagined. The crystalline realm around them pulsed with possibility. Through his enhanced perception, Marcus could see the threads of potential futures spreading out before him like strands of light. In one direction lay his old life, enriched by the understanding he'd gained here. In another lay a new path, one that would transform him into something more than just a photographer. The bear moved to stand between father and son, its form, now clearly revealing its true nature as a being of multiple dimensions. Through its presence, Marcus understood that this wasn't just about photography or even about bridging worlds. It was about evolution, about humanity's next step in understanding reality. His father's hand rested on his shoulder again, sending more waves of understanding flowing between them. Whatever you choose, know that you're part of something greater than yourself. These moments you've been capturing, these glimpses of deeper truth, they're helping people wake up to the greater reality around them. Marcus raised his transformed camera, looking through its viewfinder at the crystalline realm around him. The display showed him layers upon layers of reality, dimensions, folding into each other like the petals of an infinite flower. He understood now that every photograph he'd ever taken had been preparing him for this moment. The bear's presence beside him felt like an anchor in this sea of infinite possibility. Its wisdom, accumulated over eons of guarding the boundaries between worlds, flowed through the space around them. Through some new sense, Marcus understood that these beings had been subtly guiding humanity's development, waiting for the moment when we would be ready to see them as they truly were. His father's words echoed through his consciousness. Photography isn't just about capturing moments, Marcus. It's about revealing truth. It's about helping people see what's really there, just waiting to be discovered. The crystalline realm pulsed with potential, and Marcus felt his own consciousness expanding to embrace these new realities. He understood now that his entire career had been leading him to this moment, preparing him for a role far more significant than he'd ever imagined. The bear's galactic eyes held his gaze, and in them Marcus saw the future, not just his own, but humanity's. He saw a world where the barriers between dimensions had grown thin, where people were beginning to glimpse the greater reality that had always existed alongside their own, and he saw his role in helping them understand what they were seeing. His camera hummed with living energy, transformed into something that could capture not just light and shadow, but the very essence of reality itself. With this tool, he could help others see what he now saw, help them understand the profound truths that existed just beyond ordinary perception. The choice before him was clear, yet complex. The bear watched patiently as Marcus looked between his father and the gateway back to his own world, understanding that whatever he chose would ripple through multiple dimensions of reality. With resolute determination, Marcus lifted his transformed camera and made his choice. "I want to do both," he declared, his voice resonating through multiple dimensions. "I want to remain connected to our world while helping others see these truths. We need bridges, not barriers." The crystalline bear's form rippled with what could only be described as approval, its galactic eyes showing glimpses of countless possible futures stemming from this decision. David Chen's smile held both pride and understanding as he stepped forward to embrace his son. "That's exactly the answer I hoped you'd give," David said, his form shimmering with interdimensional energy. "It's what I chose too all those years ago. There's so much more I can show you now." The space around them transformed again, but this time into what appeared to be a vast cosmic darkroom. Instead of chemical trays and red lights, this space contained pools of pure energy that processed images on a quantum level. Photographs floated in the air, not as flat images, but as three-dimensional windows into other realities. "This is where we do our real work," David explained, moving among the floating images. Each photograph becomes a seed of awakening in the minds of those who see it. We're not just documenting reality, we're helping expand it. Marcus watched in amazement as his father demonstrated the true potential of interdimensional photography. Images that seemed ordinary at first glance revealed layers upon layers of hidden truth when viewed with his newly enhanced perception. A simple sunset contained the dance of energy beings in the sky. A forest scene revealed the quantum networks connecting all living things. The bear moved through the cosmic darkroom with practiced familiarity, its presence causing the floating images to pulse with new energy. Through their enhanced connection, Marcus understood that these crystalline beings had been working with chosen photographers throughout history, gradually preparing humanity for a greater understanding of reality. But how do we share these truths without overwhelming people? Marcus asked, thinking of his upcoming National Geographic presentation. How do we bridge these worlds without causing fear or disbelief? The bear's response came not in words, but in a series of vision memories, showing how it had guided other photographers before him. Marcus saw how subtle hints of greater reality could be woven into seemingly ordinary images, creating an unconscious awareness in viewers that would gradually blossom into understanding. David placed his hand on a floating photograph, causing it to expand into a three-dimensional space they could step into. "Let me show you how it works," he said, leading Marcus into what appeared to be a gallery exhibition from the future. The gallery walls displayed photographs taken by both father and son, but they were unlike any exhibition Marcus had ever seen. Viewers moved through the space with expressions of wonder, their auras showing the moment of awakening as they began to perceive the deeper realities hidden within each image. "You see," David explained, "every person who starts to understand becomes another bridge. Their awareness creates ripples that affect everyone around them. It's a gentle awakening, a gradual expansion of consciousness that spreads naturally, like light filling a dark room." The bear moved to another photograph, touching it with its crystalline paw. The image transformed into a window, showing the gradual changes taking place in human consciousness over time. Marcus could see how each seemingly small revelation contributed to a larger awakening, how every moment of understanding added to humanity's evolving perception of reality. "Your work has already been preparing people," his father continued, gesturing to Marcus's previous photographs. "Those unexplainable elements you captured, they weren't accidents. Your unconscious mind was already perceiving these deeper truths, and your camera was responding to that awareness." Marcus looked at his transformed camera with new understanding. It wasn't just a tool for capturing light, it was an instrument for revealing truth, a bridge between perceptions that could help others see what had always been there, waiting to be discovered. The cosmic darkroom shifted again, showing him possibilities for his future work. He saw himself leading photography workshops that were really consciousness-expanding experiences. He saw his images appearing in magazines and galleries, each one carrying seeds of awakening for those ready to see them. The bear moved closer, its presence amplifying these visions. Through their connection, Marcus understood that this was more than just a new direction for his photography. It was his role in humanity's evolution. Each image he would create would be a stepping stone, helping others cross the bridge between ordinary perception and extraordinary truth. But remember, David cautioned, his form shimmering with emphasis, our role is to reveal, not to overwhelm. Some will be ready to see everything, others will only glimpse hints of what lies beyond. Both are equally valuable in the greater awakening. Marcus nodded, understanding flowing through him like light through a prism. His upcoming National Geographic presentation wouldn't just be about wildlife photography anymore, it would be his first conscious step in this new role, a carefully crafted revelation of deeper truths hidden within seemingly ordinary images. The bear's galactic eyes held his gaze, and Marcus felt a final surge of understanding. These crystalline beings weren't just guiding humanity toward a greater awareness of reality. They were helping us evolve into beings who could perceive and interact with all dimensions of existence. His camera hummed with new energy, and Marcus raised it to capture this moment of revelation. Through the viewfinder, he could see all the layers of reality simultaneously, the physical, the quantum, the spiritual, all interweaving in a dance of infinite complexity and beauty. The image he captured wasn't just a photograph. It was a key that would help unlock similar perceptions in others. It showed the bear in all its multidimensional glory, his father's crystalline form radiating wisdom, and the cosmic darkroom with its floating windows into other realities. But more than that, it captured the feeling of awakening, the moment of understanding that would resonate with anyone who saw it. "This is just the beginning," David said, placing his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "There are more boundaries to cross, more bridges to build. The bear found you for a reason. You're ready to help others see what you've always sensed was there." The cosmic darkroom began to fade, transforming back into the familiar space of the crystal tree chamber. But now Marcus could see it clearly, for what it was. A nexus point between dimensions, a place where reality's multiple layers became visible to those ready to perceive them. The bear moved toward the exit, its form now simultaneously solid and ethereal, a living bridge between worlds. Marcus understood that it was time to return to his ordinary life, but with an extraordinary new purpose. He would continue his career as a wildlife photographer, but every image would now carry deeper meanings, subtle invitations to see beyond the surface of reality. His father's presence began to fade as well, but their connection remained strong. "I'll be watching your work," David said with a smile that spanned dimensions. "And when you're ready for more, you'll know how to find me." Marcus nodded, holding his transformed camera close. He understood now that every photograph was an opportunity, every image a potential awakening. The bear had led him not just to answers about his father's disappearance, but to a profound truth about his own purpose in the world. As he followed the bear back through the ancient doorway, Marcus felt not just transformed, but empowered. He was no longer just a witness to the world's wonders. He was a bridge between perceptions, a guide helping others see the extraordinary truth that existed just beyond ordinary vision. The journey back through the forest was different now. As Marcus followed the crystalline bear along the ancient path, he saw the world through his newly awakened perception. The trees weren't just trees anymore. They were conduits of energy, their branches reaching across dimensions. The fog that had seemed so mysterious before now revealed itself as a living interface between realities. His transformed camera captured everything in ways that would translate these truths for others. Each click of the shutter preserved not just images, but gateways to understanding. The bear moved with deliberate grace, occasionally pausing to let him photograph moments where the veils between worlds grew especially thin. When they finally reached his SUV, still parked where he'd left it on the mountain road, Marcus noticed something extraordinary. The vehicle itself seemed to pulse with a subtle energy he'd never perceived before. Through his enhanced vision, he could see how even modern technology contained echoes of the interdimensional forces he'd encountered. "The National Geographic presentation," he murmured, checking his watch. To his amazement, despite what felt like hours in the crystal chamber, only minutes had passed in ordinary time. The bear's galactic eyes held a knowing look, and Marcus understood that time itself worked differently in the spaces between dimensions. Opening his camera's display, he reviewed the images he'd captured. Each photograph contained layers of revelation, carefully encoded in ways that would speak to different levels of awareness. Some viewers would see only beautiful nature photography, while others would glimpse hints of the greater reality hidden within. The bear moved to stand before him one last time, its form now shifting seamlessly between physical and ethereal. Through their connection, Marcus received a final surge of understanding. His role wasn't just to document these truths, but to help create a gradual awakening in others. Each image he shared would plant seeds of expanded awareness, helping people recognize the extraordinary that existed within the ordinary. His phone suddenly chirped back to life, signals from the ordinary world returning. There were messages from the National Geographic editors confirming his presentation time for tomorrow morning. Marcus smiled, understanding that his presentation would now be something far more significant than he'd originally planned. The bear began to fade from ordinary vision, its form becoming more ethereal. But with his enhanced perception, Marcus could see that it wasn't really leaving. It was simply shifting fully into another dimension, one that had always existed alongside our own. Before it disappeared completely, it touched its paw to the ground, leaving a crystalline print that quickly dissolved into light. Starting his SUV, Marcus felt the engine's vibrations in a new way, understanding how even mechanical energy connected to the greater forces he'd witnessed. As he began the drive toward Portland, his mind worked through how he would restructure his presentation to include these deeper truths without overwhelming his audience. The fog that had seemed so threatening before now danced with possibility, and through his new vision, Marcus could see the quantum threads that connected everything around him. His camera, resting on the passenger seat, hummed with potential, ready to help him share these revelations with the world. Hours later, standing before the National Geographic editorial board, Marcus began his presentation with what appeared to be a simple wildlife photograph, the bear in the fog. But as he spoke, describing the moment and the setting, he carefully wove in hints of the greater truth he'd discovered. Photography isn't just about capturing what we see, he explained, moving through his carefully curated series of images. It's about revealing what's always been there, waiting to be discovered. Every moment in nature contains layers of meaning, connections we're only beginning to understand. The audience leaned forward, drawn in not just by the stunning images, but by something deeper, an unconscious recognition of the truths hidden within them. Marcus could see, with his enhanced perception, how each photograph activated different levels of awareness in different viewers. One editor's aura flickered with recognition as Marcus showed a series of photos capturing the interplay of light and shadow in the forest. Another's energy field expanded when he displayed images of animals exhibiting seemingly impossible awareness. Without overwhelming them, he was helping them glimpse the edges of a greater reality. What we're seeing in these moments, he continued, displaying the transformed images from his encounter, is nature revealing itself to us in new ways. As photographers, we have the privilege of documenting not just what is easily seen, but what exists just beyond our ordinary perception. The presentation concluded with the image of the bear's crystalline paw print dissolving into light, a photograph that seemed to defy conventional explanation. The room sat in stunned silence for a moment before erupting into enthusiastic discussion. "This is extraordinary work, Marcus," the chief editor said, her energy field showing genuine awakening. "You've captured something we can't quite explain, but something that feels profoundly true. We'd like to feature this as a special series." As Marcus discussed terms and dates with the editorial board, he could feel his father's presence across dimensions and sense the bear's approval rippling through the quantum field. This was just the beginning of his new role as a bridge between worlds. Leaving the National Geographic offices, Marcus found himself seeing the city with completely new awareness. Every street, every building, every person contained layers of reality he could now perceive. His camera, more than ever, felt like a tool of transformation rather than just documentation. A glint of light caught his eye, and he turned to see a familiar crystalline shimmer in a nearby alley. The bear's form was barely visible to ordinary vision, but Marcus could see it clearly with his enhanced perception. It nodded once, acknowledging their shared purpose, before fading back into the spaces between dimensions. Marcus raised his camera, capturing the moment of transition. The image would become part of his next series, another careful step in helping others awaken to the greater reality that existed all around them. He understood now that every photograph was an opportunity, every image a potential gateway to understanding. His phone buzzed with an email from the National Geographic editors requesting an expanded proposal for his series. Marcus smiled, knowing that what appeared to be a simple photography project would actually be a carefully crafted invitation for others to begin their own journey of awakening. The city hummed with energy around him, every moment filled with potential for revelation. His camera hung ready at his side, no longer just a tool for capturing light, but an instrument for bridging worlds. The bear had shown him the way, but this was just the beginning of his real work. As he walked back to his hotel, Marcus could feel the quantum threads connecting him to his father, to the bear, to the crystal chamber, and to all the other awakened beings working to expand humanity's perception of reality. Every step felt like moving through multiple dimensions at once, every moment an opportunity to help others see what had always been there. The sun was setting over Portland, casting long shadows that, through his enhanced vision, revealed themselves as gateways between worlds. Marcus raised his camera one more time, capturing the interplay of light and shadow, ordinary and extraordinary, known and unknown. This image, like all the others he would take from now on, would carry within it seeds of awakening, carefully encoded messages that would help others begin their own journey of discovery. The bear had led him to this understanding, but it was up to him to share it with the world, one photograph at a time. Looking at the image on his camera's display, Marcus saw not just a city sunset, but a moment of potential transformation. Every photograph was now a bridge, every image a doorway, and every viewer a potential awakening waiting to happen. His journey had only just begun, but already he could see the ripples of change spreading outward, touching lives in ways that would gradually transform humanity's understanding of reality itself. 6 months after his transformative encounter in the Oregon forest, Marcus found himself standing before a packed auditorium at the World Photography Summit in Tokyo. His National Geographic series, Hidden Dimensions, had become a global phenomenon, sparking conversations and controversies across the scientific and artistic communities. The images projected behind him showed more than just beautiful wildlife photography. They revealed layers of reality that had previously gone unnoticed. Through his transformed camera and enhanced perception, Marcus had captured moments where the ordinary world intersected with the extraordinary, where the veils between dimensions grew thin enough for others to glimpse what lay beyond. "What you're seeing isn't digital manipulation," Marcus explained to the captivated audience, gesturing to a photograph of a wolf pack moving through a moonlit forest. In the image, quantum threads of energy connected the wolves to each other, and to the forest itself, visible as subtle ribbons of light that most viewers described as feeling strangely familiar. These are natural phenomena that have always existed, waiting to be perceived. From his position on stage, Marcus could see the varying levels of awakening occurring in his audience. Some viewers' auras pulsed with recognition, while others showed the first stirrings of expanded awareness. This was exactly how the crystalline beings had taught him to work. Gentle revelation rather than overwhelming disclosure. A movement at the back of the auditorium caught his enhanced vision. The bear's form shimmered briefly between dimensions, visible only to those whose perception had begun to expand. Its presence reminded Marcus of the responsibility he carried as a bridge between worlds. The next photograph in his presentation showed a mountain lake at dawn, but captured in such a way that viewers could sense the multiple realities existing simultaneously in that space. Gasps of recognition rippled through the audience as people felt, rather than merely saw, the interconnectedness of all things. Each moment in nature contains infinite layers of truth, Marcus continued, his voice carrying the resonance of someone who had witnessed these deeper realities firsthand. As photographers, our role isn't just to document what is easily seen, but to help reveal what has always been present, waiting to be discovered. After the presentation, during the question and answer session, a young photographer raised her hand. "Your recent work shows something different. Something we can't quite explain, but somehow recognize. How did this evolution in your photography occur?" Marcus smiled, remembering the moment the bear had first blocked his path on that foggy mountain road. "Sometimes," he answered carefully, "we need to be stopped in our familiar tracks to discover unfamiliar truths. The world is far more extraordinary than we've been taught to believe, and photography can be a gateway to understanding these deeper realities." Later that evening, in his hotel room overlooking the Tokyo skyline, Marcus reviewed the day's images on his camera's display. Each photograph contained carefully encoded revelations, subtle invitations for viewers to expand their own perception of reality. A soft huffing sound drew his attention to the balcony. The crystalline bear stood there, its form shifting between physical and ethereal, its galactic eyes reflecting the city lights below. Through their connection, Marcus understood that his work was having effects beyond what he could see. The bear moved closer, touching its paw to Marcus's camera. The display suddenly showed images from around the world, people encountering similar beings, experiencing their own awakening moments, beginning to perceive the greater reality that had always existed alongside their ordinary world. "It's happening, isn't it?" Marcus asked softly, "the gradual awakening you and the others have been working toward." The bear's response came not in words, but in a series of visions. Marcus saw how his photographs were creating ripples of awareness, how each viewer who began to perceive these deeper truths became another bridge, another point of awakening in the global consciousness. A new image appeared on his camera's display, a photograph he hadn't taken yet. It showed a gathering of people from different cultures and backgrounds, all sharing the moment of recognizing their connection to these deeper realities. The bear's presence in the image was subtle but unmistakable, a guardian watching over humanity's evolution of consciousness. Marcus understood that this future event would be crucial in his role as a bridge between worlds. His photography wouldn't just document the awakening. It would help catalyze it, providing tangible evidence of the extraordinary that existed within the ordinary. The next morning, as he prepared for another presentation, Marcus received an unexpected email. A prestigious scientific journal wanted to collaborate on a study examining the unusual phenomena appearing in his photographs. Rather than dismissing these elements as artifacts or manipulation, the researchers were proposing new frameworks for understanding what his images were revealing. The bear's presence rippled through the quantum field, its approval evident in the way reality seemed to shimmer around them. This was another step in the careful unveiling of greater truths. Science beginning to bridge the gap between conventional understanding and expanded awareness. During his second presentation, Marcus noticed more people in the audience showing signs of awakened perception. They could see the bear's crystalline form at the edges of their awareness, could sense the multiple dimensions encoded in his images. The awakening was spreading, exactly as the crystalline beings had planned. A photograph of a simple garden sparked particular interest. In it, viewers could see how even everyday plants existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their life force connecting to vast networks of energy that spanned realities. The image made people question everything they thought they knew about the nature of existence itself. "What we're witnessing," Marcus explained, his words carrying the weight of direct experience, "is not just a new way of seeing the world, but a remembrance of how we were always meant to see it. These photographs are simply reminding us of what we've forgotten how to perceive." After the conference, walking through the busy streets of Tokyo, Marcus saw the world through his enhanced perception. Every person carried the potential for awakening. Every moment contained opportunities for expanded awareness. His camera hung ready at his side, prepared to capture these moments of potential transformation. A group of young photographers approached him, eager to understand his techniques. But as he began to explain, Marcus saw something extraordinary. One of them already showed signs of enhanced perception, their aura pulsing with recognition as they noticed the bear's subtle presence nearby. The key, Marcus told them, is not in the camera's settings or in post-processing techniques. It's in allowing yourself to see what has always been there, in being willing to question everything you think you know about reality itself. As night fell over Tokyo, Marcus stood on his hotel balcony, his transformed camera capturing the interplay of ordinary and extraordinary realities in the city below. The bear's presence beside him was a reminder of the journey that had brought him here and the path that still lay ahead. Tomorrow he would begin planning the global gathering he'd seen in the bear's vision. It would be more than just a photography event. It would be a catalyst for collective awakening, a carefully orchestrated moment when the veils between worlds would grow thin enough for everyone to glimpse the truth. His camera hummed with potential, ready to continue its role in bridging dimensions, while the bear's galactic eyes held the wisdom of eons. Together, they watched the quantum threads of possibility weaving through the city, creating patterns of awakening that would eventually encompass the entire world. 1 year after his encounter with the crystalline bear, Marcus stood at the entrance of a vast exhibition space in New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The banner above read, "Awakening Photography Beyond Reality," a groundbreaking show that would bring together his work with that of other photographers who had begun capturing glimpses of interdimensional reality. The exhibition space had been transformed into a journey of consciousness, with each gallery designed to gradually expand visitors' perception. The first room appeared conventional, displaying seemingly ordinary nature photographs that contained subtle hints of deeper realities. But as viewers progressed through the space, the images revealed increasingly profound truths about the nature of existence. The key was designing it as an experiential journey, Marcus explained to the museum's curator, Sarah Williams, who had shown remarkable openness to his unconventional vision. Each image builds upon the last, helping people expand their awareness gradually. The centerpiece of the exhibition was a circular chamber Marcus had designed in collaboration with quantum physicists and consciousness researchers. Here, his photographs were projected in a 360-degree environment, synchronized with subtle energy frequencies that helped activate viewers' latent ability to perceive multiple dimensions. As they walked through the space, Marcus noticed Sarah's aura beginning to pulse with recognition. Like many others who had been exposed to his work, she was starting to develop her own enhanced perception. The bear's presence, shifting between dimensions at the edges of the exhibition, confirmed that everything was unfolding as intended. "These images," Sarah said, stopping before a photograph of a forest clearing where multiple realities visibly intersected, "they feel like memories of something we've always known, but somehow forgot. How do you capture these moments?" Marcus smiled, remembering his own journey of awakening. "The camera is just a tool," he explained. "The real key is learning to see what's always been there. These photographs don't create anything new. They simply reveal what exists in every moment, waiting to be perceived." The exhibition had drawn unprecedented interest from the scientific community. A team of researchers from prestigious institutions had set up sophisticated equipment to measure the subtle energy changes that occurred as people viewed the images. Their preliminary findings were challenging conventional understanding of consciousness and reality itself. In one corner of the exhibition, a group of children stood transfixed before a photograph of a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. Through his enhanced vision, Marcus could see that they perceived the multiple dimensions naturally, their young minds not yet conditioned to filter out these deeper realities. The bear moved closer to them, its presence causing their auras to brighten with recognition. A television crew was setting up for an interview, but Marcus's attention was drawn to their young camera operator. Her energy field showed signs of awakening perception, and she kept glancing at the spots where the bear's form shifted between dimensions. Through their gear, Marcus could see quantum threads of energy connecting the camera's technology to higher dimensions of reality. "We're ready for the interview," the producer called, but paused as she noticed something unusual in her viewfinder. The bear's presence was causing subtle distortions in their equipment, creating what would later be described as unexplainable technical phenomena. Marcus used these moments to help others understand what they were beginning to perceive. "Technology itself is evolving," he explained during the interview. "As our consciousness expands, our tools for documenting reality are adapting to capture these deeper truths." Later that evening, after the crowds had left, Marcus walked through the quiet galleries with his father. David Chen's form shifted between physical and crystalline as they discussed the impact of their work. Other photographers who had begun capturing interdimensional realities had contributed to the exhibition, creating a powerful collective testament to humanity's expanding awareness. "Remember when you first encountered the bear?" David asked, stopping before the photograph that captured that pivotal moment on the foggy mountain road. "Now look at how many others are beginning to see." The bear appeared beside them, its galactic eyes reflecting the wisdom of ages. Through their enhanced perception, father and son could see the quantum threads connecting every photograph in the exhibition, creating a web of awakening that extended far beyond the museum's walls. Marcus's camera, hanging at his side, had evolved further since that first transformation. It now worked in harmony with his expanded consciousness, capturing not just images, but entire fields of reality that could help others activate their own deeper perception. A new photograph appeared on his camera's display, a vision of the future that the bear wanted him to see. It showed humanity at a crucial turning point, where the veils between dimensions had grown so thin that everyone could perceive the greater reality that had always existed alongside their own. "The awakening is accelerating," David observed, his form shimmering with understanding. "Your exhibition is creating ripples that will help catalyze the next phase of human consciousness." The bear moved through the gallery, its presence causing each photograph to pulse with renewed energy. Visitors the next day would find the images somehow more vivid, more revealing, as if the bear's consciousness had enhanced their ability to convey deeper truths. Marcus raised his camera, capturing this moment of transformation. The image showed all three of them, himself, his father, and the bear, existing simultaneously in multiple dimensions, a living demonstration of the expanded reality they were helping others to perceive. The next morning, as the exhibition opened to the public, Marcus watched from a quiet corner as people encountered these deeper truths for the first time. Each visitor's reaction was unique, yet all shared a common thread, a recognition of something they had always known but had forgotten how to see. A young artist sat sketching before one of his photographs, her pencil moving in patterns that reflected the quantum energy fields she was beginning to perceive. A physicist stood nearby, his scientific skepticism dissolving as he witnessed phenomena that defied conventional explanation but confirmed his most radical theories about the nature of reality. The bear moved among them, invisible to most, but increasingly perceptible to those whose awareness was expanding. Its presence created subtle shifts in consciousness that helped people recognize the extraordinary that existed within the ordinary. Marcus's camera captured these moments of awakening, each image becoming part of a growing body of evidence that reality was far more vast and wonderful than most people had been taught to believe. The exhibition was more than just a collection of photographs. It was a catalyst for transformation, a carefully crafted invitation to remember what humanity had forgotten. As the day progressed, Marcus noticed more and more visitors showing signs of enhanced perception. They would pause in certain spots, their auras pulsing with recognition as they sensed the bear's presence or glimpsed the quantum threads connecting all things. The awakening was spreading, exactly as the crystalline beings had envisioned. Scientists, artists, and spiritual seekers found common ground in these galleries, their diverse perspectives converging as they encountered irrefutable evidence of a reality that transcended their individual disciplines. The exhibition was breaking down barriers not just between dimensions, but between different ways of understanding existence itself. Each photograph in the exhibition held layers of truth that revealed themselves differently to each viewer, meeting them at their level of awareness while gently inviting them to perceive more. This was the genius of the crystalline being's plan. A gradual awakening that allowed each person to expand their consciousness at their own pace. 2 years into his journey of awakening consciousness through photography, Marcus found himself in an unexpected location, a high-security research facility beneath the Swiss Alps. The CERN particle physics laboratory had invited him to collaborate on a groundbreaking project combining quantum physics with his unique ability to capture interdimensional phenomena. The circular tunnel of the Large Hadron Collider stretched before him, but through his enhanced vision, Marcus saw far more than just the impressive machinery. A breakthrough came when they introduced consciousness sensing equipment developed by a Japanese research team. The devices confirmed what Marcus could already see, that awareness itself was a quantum phenomenon, capable of interacting with and influencing physical reality. "This changes everything," Elena breathed, reviewing the combined data from their instruments and Marcus's photographs. "We're not just observing reality. We're in constant dialogue with it. Consciousness isn't just an emergent property of brain activity. It's a fundamental force of nature." The bear's presence intensified, causing all the equipment to register unprecedented readings. Through their enhanced perception, Marcus and the awakening scientists could see how consciousness wove through the fabric of reality like threads through a tapestry. That evening, a press conference was held to announce their preliminary findings. Marcus's photographs, combined with CERN's data, provided compelling evidence of the relationship between consciousness and quantum reality. The bear remained invisible to cameras, but made its presence known through measurable effects on the quantum field. "What we're discovering," Elena explained to the assembled journalists, "is that reality is far more responsive to consciousness than we ever imagined. These Photographs and our data suggest that awareness itself is a crucial factor in how the universe operates. Marcus watched as the reporters' own awareness began to expand, their auras showing the first signs of awakening as they encountered evidence they couldn't dismiss. The bear moved among them, its presence triggering subtle shifts in perception that would later emerge in their reporting. The next phase of research would expand beyond the laboratory. Plans were made to create a global network of consciousness monitoring stations, using both scientific instruments and awakened perception to study how human awareness was evolving. Marcus's camera had become a bridge between worlds in more ways than one, not just capturing images of quantum reality, but helping to validate the experiences of those whose perception was expanding. Each photograph now carried both scientific data and transformative potential. The bear's galactic eyes held ancient wisdom as it observed humanity taking these crucial steps toward understanding. Through their connection, Marcus sensed both approval and anticipation. This convergence of science and expanded consciousness was just the beginning. As he prepared to leave CERN, Marcus captured one final image, the bear standing in the heart of the particle accelerator, its crystalline form revealing the quantum nature of consciousness itself. The photograph would become both scientific evidence and catalyst for awakening, helping others understand the profound relationship between awareness and reality. 3 years after his first encounter with the crystalline bear, Marcus found himself in a remote village in the Himalayas, where ancient wisdom and modern awakening were converging in unexpected ways. The monastery before him appeared ordinary, to conventional vision, but through his enhanced perception, he could see it was a nexus point of interdimensional energy similar to the crystal chamber in Oregon. Local monks had been expecting him, not through any ordinary communication, but through their own expanded awareness. As Marcus approached the ancient gates, his camera captured the quantum threads that connected this sacred site to others around the world, forming a network of awakening that had existed for millennia. "Your arrival was written in the light," the head monk Rinpoche Thubten said in perfect English, his aura showing fully awakened perception. The Ancient Ones spoke of a time when the barriers between worlds would thin, and those who see would help others remember how to perceive the greater reality. The bear materialized beside them, its crystalline form resonating with the monastery's energy field. The monks showed no surprise at its appearance, greeting it as an old friend. Through their connection, Marcus understood that these beings had been working with awakened humans throughout history, preparing for this time of collective transformation. Inside the monastery's inner sanctum, Marcus discovered ancient artworks, depicting crystalline beings guiding humanity's evolution of consciousness. What appeared to ordinary vision as traditional religious paintings revealed themselves, through his lens, as sophisticated maps of interdimensional reality. "Your photographs speak the same truth as our ancient texts," Rinpoche Thubten explained, examining Marcus's recent images from CERN. Science and spirituality are beginning to remember that they share the same source. Your work helps others see this convergence. The bear moved through the sanctum, its presence causing the ancient artifacts to pulse with renewed energy. Marcus's camera captured the interaction, revealing how consciousness could bridge not just dimensions, but epochs of human understanding. A group of young monks had gathered to share their own experiences of expanded perception. Through generations of meditation practice, they had developed natural abilities to see multiple dimensions. Marcus's photographs helped them articulate these experiences to others in ways that bridged ancient wisdom with modern understanding. "Watch," one young monk said, demonstrating a traditional meditation technique. As he entered a deep state of consciousness, his form began to shift between dimensions in a way that perfectly matched the phenomena Marcus had been photographing. The bear's approving presence confirmed the connection between ancient practices and current awakening. Marcus spent days documenting these demonstrations of expanded consciousness, each photograph revealing how traditional spiritual practices had been preparing humanity for this time of transformation. The monk's abilities provided living proof of human potential for interdimensional awareness. During evening meditation sessions, the monastery's grand hall filled with visible quantum energy. Marcus's camera captured the monks' collective consciousness, creating patterns that matched both ancient mandalas and the most advanced quantum physics equations from CERN. "Your father visited us," Rinpoche Thubten revealed one evening as they reviewed Marcus's latest images. Many years ago, before his transformation, he too helped document the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern awakening. The bear's presence intensified at these words, and suddenly Marcus's camera displayed photographs he'd never seen. Images his father had taken here decades ago, showing the same phenomena from a slightly different perspective. Through these images, he could trace the gradual evolution of human consciousness across generations. A breakthrough came when the monks introduced Marcus to their most sacred practice, a form of light meditation that allowed direct perception of interdimensional reality. As he learned their techniques, his photography evolved to capture not just the appearance of multiple dimensions, but the experience of moving between them. "The camera is not just a tool for documentation," one elder monk explained, "but an instrument of awakening itself. Your photographs carry the energy of expanded consciousness, helping activate this awareness in others." The bear's galactic eyes held ancient wisdom as it observed Marcus integrating these spiritual practices with his evolving photography. Each image now carried layers of awakening potential, scientific evidence, spiritual truth, and direct transmission of expanded awareness. During his final days at the monastery, Marcus worked with the monks to create a series of photographs that would become part of both modern scientific research and traditional spiritual teaching. Each image demonstrated the unity of these seemingly different paths to understanding reality. "Your journey continues," Rinpoche Thubten said as Marcus prepared to leave. "The awakening spreads through many channels: science, art, spiritual practice. Your photography helps others see how all these paths lead to the same truth." The bear led Marcus to one final location within the monastery, a hidden chamber whose walls were covered in ancient mirrors. Here, his camera captured something extraordinary, reflections that showed not just physical reality, but the multiple dimensions of existence simultaneously. These images would become part of a groundbreaking exhibition combining quantum physics data, spiritual wisdom, and direct perception of interdimensional reality. The monks' ancient practices provided a framework for understanding the transformative potential of expanded consciousness. As Marcus descended from the monastery, his camera filled with images that bridged epochs and dimensions, he understood that the integration of ancient wisdom with modern awakening was another crucial step in humanity's evolution. The bear's presence beside him confirmed that this convergence was part of a greater plan for human consciousness. The quantum threads connecting the monastery to other sacred sites around the world pulsed with renewed energy, creating a network of awakening that encompassed both ancient wisdom and modern understanding. Through his lens, Marcus could see how this network was helping catalyze humanity's next step in perception and awareness. His final photograph from the monastery showed the bear standing between the ancient gates, its crystalline form bridging physical and spiritual dimensions. The image would serve as both documentation and invitation, calling others to recognize the profound connection between traditional wisdom and evolving consciousness. 4 years into his journey of expanded awareness, Marcus found himself standing before a unique gathering at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The General Assembly Hall had been transformed into an unprecedented convergence of scientists, spiritual leaders, indigenous elders, and consciousness researchers from around the world. His latest photographic exhibition, combining images from CERN, the Himalayan monastery, and dozens of other sites of awakening consciousness, lined the walls. But these weren't just photographs hanging in frames. Each image was connected to sophisticated quantum sensors that measured their impact on human consciousness in real time. What we're witnessing, Marcus explained to the assembled global leaders, is not just an expansion of human perception, but an evolution in our understanding of reality itself. Behind him, a massive screen displayed live data from the worldwide network of consciousness monitoring stations they had established. The bear's presence rippled through the assembly hall, causing the quantum sensors to register unprecedented spikes in coherent energy. Through his enhanced vision, Marcus could see how each person's awareness was being gently expanded by exposure to these interdimensional phenomena. Dr. Elena Rossi from CERN presented their latest findings, which showed direct correlations between exposure to Marcus's photographs and measurable changes in human consciousness. These images don't just document expanded awareness, she explained. They actively facilitate it. Indigenous elders from various traditions stepped forward to share how these photographs confirmed what their ancestral wisdom had always known. Their stories of interdimensional beings and expanded consciousness, once dismissed as mythology, were now being validated by quantum physics. Through his camera's evolving capabilities, Marcus captured the moment when ancient wisdom and modern science fully converged. The image showed quantum energy patterns that perfectly matched traditional sacred geometries, while the bear's crystalline form demonstrated the living bridge between different ways of knowing. A group of children had been invited to the gathering, their natural ability to perceive multiple dimensions providing crucial insights. Through their untrained eyes, they described seeing exactly what Marcus's enhanced photography was revealing: the quantum threads connecting all things, the crystalline beings moving between dimensions. "The children remind us," Marcus said, "that this expanded perception is our natural state. We're not learning something new, we're remembering what we've always known but had forgotten how to see." The bear moved through the assembly hall, its presence triggering awakening experiences in those who were ready. Marcus's camera captured these moments of transformation, showing how individual consciousness could shift into expanded awareness. Through direct exposure to interdimensional reality, A breakthrough presentation came from a team of neuroscientists who had been studying the brain patterns of people viewing Marcus's photographs. Their research showed that exposure to these images activated dormant neural networks associated with expanded perception and interdimensional awareness. The human brain, their lead researcher explained, appears to be pre-wired for this type of perception. These photographs are helping reactivate capabilities that have always been part of our potential. The bear's galactic eyes held ancient wisdom as it observed humanity taking these crucial steps toward collective awakening. Through their connection, Marcus understood that this gathering was a pivotal moment in the crystalline being's long-term plan for human evolution. During an afternoon session, spiritual leaders demonstrated traditional practices for expanding consciousness, while scientists measured the quantum effects of these techniques. Marcus's photography revealed how these practices created coherent patterns in the fabric of reality itself. "We're seeing the same phenomena through different lenses," Eleanor observed, comparing the quantum data with ancient spiritual texts. "Science, spirituality, and direct perception are converging to show us a more complete picture of reality." The bear led Marcus to various points around the assembly hall, each location revealing new aspects of how human consciousness was evolving. His camera captured these shifts in awareness, providing both documentation and catalyst for further awakening. A powerful moment came when a group of teenagers presented their own experiences with expanded perception. Having grown up exposed to Marcus's work and the growing awareness of interdimensional reality, they demonstrated natural abilities that previous generations had struggled to access. "We don't see these things as strange or supernatural," one young presenter explained. "To us, it's just reality, all of it, all at once. The photographs help us share what we see with others who are still learning to perceive this way." The bear's presence intensified during their presentation, confirming that this new generation's natural acceptance of expanded reality was part of humanity's intended evolution. Marcus's camera captured the quantum threads connecting these young people to future possibilities, showing how their consciousness would help catalyze further awakening. As the day progressed, more evidence emerged of how this expanded awareness was spreading globally. Representatives from various countries shared reports of spontaneous awakening experiences, often triggered by exposure to Marcus's photographs or the presence of crystalline beings like the bear. "What we're documenting," Marcus explained in his closing presentation, "is not just an expansion of human consciousness, but a remembrance of our true capabilities. Every photograph, every measurement, every personal experience adds to our understanding of what's possible." The bear moved to stand beside him as he showed his final series of images, photographs that captured the quantum nature of consciousness itself. These images demonstrated how awareness could directly interact with and influence physical reality, bridging the perceived gap between mind and matter. "We stand at a threshold," Marcus concluded, as the bear's crystalline form became visible to more and more of the assembled leaders. Not just between dimensions, but between ways of being. The choice to expand our perception, to embrace our full potential, lies with each of us. The quantum sensors registered a massive surge of coherent energy as collective understanding rippled through the assembly hall. Marcus's camera captured this moment of unified awareness, showing how individual consciousness could merge into something greater while maintaining its unique perspective. As the gathering concluded, plans were made to establish centers for consciousness research and development around the world. Marcus's photographs would serve as both teaching tools and catalysts for awakening, while the bear and other crystalline beings would continue their work of guiding humanity's evolution. The final image from the day showed the bear standing in the center of the United Nations symbol, its form shifting between dimensions as representatives from around the world gathered around it. The photograph captured not just a historic moment, but a glimpse of humanity's potential future, unified not by politics or ideology, but by expanded awareness of our true nature. 5 years after the bear first blocked his path on that foggy mountain road, Marcus Chen stood once again in the ancient forest of Oregon, but this time he wasn't alone. Hundreds of people had gathered in the clearing near the crystal chamber, drawn by an inner knowing that something extraordinary was about to occur. The crystalline bear stood beside him, its form now fully visible to most of those present, a testament to how far human perception had evolved. Through his enhanced vision, Marcus could see quantum threads connecting each person to the larger web of awakening consciousness that now spanned the globe. His father, David Chen, materialized. From the crystalline realm, his form shifting between dimensions as naturally as breathing. Together, they had helped document and facilitate humanity's gradual remembrance of its true potential, using photography as a bridge between ordinary and extraordinary perception. "It's time," David said softly, as the bear moved toward the ancient doorway that had first revealed itself to Marcus years ago. The door was now visible to all, its crystalline structure pulsing with interdimensional energy that even those with nascent awareness could perceive. Marcus raised his transformed camera, which had evolved alongside his consciousness, into something that bridged multiple realities. Through its viewfinder, he could see the culmination of everything they had worked toward, the moment when humanity would take its next collective step in evolution. Representatives from the scientific community, including Dr. Elena Rossi and her team from CERN, had set up advanced quantum monitoring equipment around the clearing. Their instruments confirmed what the more perceptive individuals could already see: reality itself was becoming more fluid, more responsive to conscious awareness. Rinpoche Thubten and other spiritual leaders from various traditions formed a circle, their combined consciousness creating patterns of energy that matched both ancient sacred geometries and the most advanced quantum equations. The bear moved, among them, its presence amplifying the field of awakened awareness. Young people who had grown up during this time of transformation stood ready with their own cameras and consciousness-sensing devices, their natural ability to perceive multiple dimensions helping others understand what was unfolding. They weren't just witnessing history, they were actively participating in humanity's evolution. "What happens here," Marcus explained to the gathered crowd, "will ripple through all dimensions of reality. Each of us carries the potential for expanded awareness. Today, we step into that potential together." The bear's galactic eyes held ancient wisdom as it took its position by the crystal doorway. Through their deep connection, Marcus understood that this moment had been carefully prepared for throughout human history. The crystalline beings had been guiding humanity toward this threshold of transformation for millennia. His camera captured The preliminary shifts in the quantum field as hundreds of awakened consciousnesses began to synchronize. The images showed how individual awareness could merge into a coherent field while maintaining its unique perspective. Unity without uniformity. Elena's equipment registered unprecedented readings as the crystal doorway began to pulse with increasing energy. The quantum coherence patterns are expanding exponentially, she reported, her own aura showing full awakening. It's as if reality itself is responding to our collective consciousness. The bear moved to the center of the gathering, its crystalline form now radiating pure light. Those present felt their awareness expanding further, perceiving dimensions and possibilities that had always existed but had remained hidden from ordinary vision. Marcus's father stepped forward, his form seamlessly shifting between physical and crystalline states. "This is what the photographs have been preparing people for," he explained, "not just to see more, but to be more, to embrace our full potential as multidimensional beings." Through his viewfinder, Marcus captured the moment when the first waves of transformation began to spread outward from the gathering. The images showed consciousness itself evolving, becoming more capable of perceiving and interacting with multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. The young people present were the first to demonstrate the next level of human potential. Their natural ability to perceive interdimensional reality expanded further, showing others what was possible. Their consciousness moved freely between dimensions, while their physical forms began to show the same crystalline qualities as the bear. "This is not an ending," Marcus said, as the transformation spread through the gathering, "but a beginning. We're not leaving our humanity behind. We're finally discovering what it truly means to be human." The bear's presence intensified, its form now visible across all dimensions simultaneously. Through their connection, Marcus understood that the crystalline beings had been aspects of humanity's future self, reaching back through time to guide our evolution. His camera captured the ripples of transformation spreading outward from the gathering, showing how this awakening would gradually extend to all of humanity. The images revealed that this evolution would unfold at the perfect pace for each individual, a natural remembrance rather than a forced change. The quantum monitoring equipment registered coherent energy patterns, spreading far beyond the gathering, connecting with the global network of consciousness they had helped establish. This transformation would not be limited to those physically present. It was the beginning of a planetary awakening. David Chen's form stabilized in a state that bridged physical and crystalline reality, demonstrating what was possible for all humans. "The photographs were never just images," he explained. "They were keys, helping people unlock their own potential for expanded awareness." The bear moved through the gathering one last time, its presence now fully understood as both guardian and guide. It had led Marcus to this understanding 5 years ago, knowing that his photography would help others make the same journey of awakening. As the transformation continued to unfold, Marcus captured images that would help future generations understand this pivotal moment in human evolution. Each photograph showed not just what was happening, but what was possible for all of humanity. The crystal doorway pulsed with increasing light as more people began to access their full potential. But unlike in science fiction stories, there was no mass exodus to another dimension. Instead, people began to perceive and interact with all dimensions simultaneously, while remaining fully present in the physical world. "We're not leaving Earth," Marcus explained, as his own consciousness expanded to embrace this new way of being. "We're learning to experience all of reality at once, to be fully present in all dimensions while maintaining our connection to this world." The bear's final gesture was to touch each person present with its crystalline paw, activating dormant potential for interdimensional awareness. Marcus's camera captured these moments of individual awakening, showing how each person's unique consciousness contributed to the greater transformation. As the day drew to a close, the gathering had transformed into something extraordinary. A community of awakened beings who could perceive and interact with multiple dimensions of reality, while remaining grounded in their human experience. The bear's presence had shifted from guide to companion as humanity began to step into its full potential. Marcus's final photograph showed the bear standing among the transformed gathering, its crystalline form now matching the evolved state of human consciousness. The image captured not just a moment in time, but a glimpse of humanity's continuing evolution, a journey that had begun with a simple encounter on a foggy mountain road, and would continue unfolding into an extraordinary future. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload. From us